Socialism sharing is caring, right? It's a concept that has been around for centuries, stirring debates and inspiring movements. But what does it really mean? Picture this: a world where everyone chips in and everyone benefits. Imagine a society where the fruits of labor are shared equally among all its members, ensuring that no one is left behind. That's the gist of socialism, folks. It's about creating a community where resources are distributed based on need, not on wealth or power. It's like that friend who always brings extra snacks to the party, except it's the government ensuring everyone has their fair share of resources. Imagine a world where healthcare, education, and basic necessities are guaranteed for all. No more billionaires hoarding cash while others struggle to make ends meet. Sounds pretty utopian, right? But it's not just about wealth redistribution. It's about creating a fair and just society. Well, hold on to your hats because things are about to get interesting. The idea of socialism has sparked revolutions and shaped nations, but it's also faced significant challenges and criticisms. But like that same friend who brings the snacks, sometimes socialism can get a little intense. Who decides what's fair? How do we ensure that everyone contributes their fair share? Who makes sure everyone's pulling their weight? These questions have led to heated debates and differing interpretations of what socialism should look like in practice. And what about those who just want to keep their snacks to themselves? The balance between individual freedom and collective responsibility is a delicate one. Buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into the wild world of 19th century European socialism. We'll explore the origins, the key figures, and the movements that sought to reshape society. From the Industrial Revolution to the rise of labor unions, we'll see how the idea of sharing and caring evolved over time. So, join us on this journey through history as we uncover the roots of socialism and its impact on the modern world. Whether you're a fan or a critic, there's no denying that the idea of sharing is caring has left an indelible mark on our society. And who knows, maybe by understanding the past, we can find new ways to create a more equitable future. After all, sharing is caring, right? Enter the bearded bros Karl and Friedrich's excellent adventure. In the mid-1800s, two German intellectuals, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, decided to give capitalism a serious side-eye. These two were not just any ordinary thinkers, they were visionaries who saw the world through a lens of social justice and equality. Imagine a grumpy but brilliant Marx, sporting a beard that could house a family of sparrows, and his equally sharp but slightly less hirsute companion, Engels. Together they formed a partnership that would challenge the very foundations of society as they knew it. They were like the dynamic duo of social critique, except instead of cool gadgets, they wielded pens and fiery manifestos. Their writings were not just words on paper, they were calls to action, urging the working class to rise up and demand their rights. These two weren't fans of the whole rich get richer, poor get poorer vibe of industrial capitalism. They saw the vast inequalities and injustices that were rampant during the Industrial Revolution. They saw factory workers toiling in terrible conditions while the factory owners sipped champagne on their yachts. The stark contrast between the lives of the wealthy and the struggles of the poor was something they could not ignore. Not cool, dudes, not cool. Marx and Engels believed that this system was fundamentally flawed and needed to be changed. They envisioned a society where everyone had equal opportunities and where the wealth was distributed more fairly. Their most famous work, the Communist Manifesto, laid out their ideas and became a rallying cry for workers around the world. It was a bold and revolutionary document that challenged the status quo and inspired countless movements for social change. The impact of their ideas was profound. From labor movements to political revolutions, Marx and Engels' vision of a more just and equitable society resonated with people across the globe. Their legacy continues to influence thinkers and activists to this day. So the next time you see a protest for workers' rights or a movement for social justice, remember the bearded bros who started it all. Karl and Friedrich's excellent adventure was more than just a critique of capitalism. It was a call to build a better world for everyone. Das Kapital a page-turner? Not really. Marx, fueled by enough coffee to fuel a small nation, penned the ultimate capitalist critique, Das Kapital. It's a hefty tome, folks, not exactly light beach reading. Think of it as the War and Peace of economic theory, except with more talk of class struggle and the inevitable downfall of capitalism. Marx argued that capitalism was inherently unstable and destined to implode. He predicted a glorious worker-led revolution that would usher in a classless society. Spoiler alert, things didn't exactly go according to plan, but hey, give the man points for ambition, right? Germany, the OG Socialist Startup. Germany in the late 19th century was like a pressure cooker ready to burst. Rapid industrialization led to crowded cities, low wages, and a whole lot of disgruntled workers. Marx and Engels' ideas found fertile ground among the working class, who were ready to try anything to improve their lot. Socialist parties began to sprout like mushrooms after a spring rain. They organized rallies, published newspapers, and even won seats in parliament. The German government, understandably a tad nervous about all this socialist fervor, tried to crack down. But the movement was already gaining momentum, fueled by the promise of a more equitable society. Ah, France. The land of romance, revolution, and really good bread, France had a long and storied history of overthrowing its rulers. Remember the French Revolution? Yeah, those guys don't mess around. So it's no surprise that socialist ideas found a receptive audience in the land of liberté, égalité, fraternité. French socialists, inspired by their German comrades, began to organize workers and challenge the status quo. They weren't afraid to take to the streets either. Paris became a hotbed of protests, strikes, and the occasional barricade being erected because why not? The French government, caught between a croissant and a hard place, struggled to contain the growing socialist movement. Across the Channel, things were a bit more civilized. The British countryside, with its rolling hills and picturesque villages, seemed a world away from the revolutionary fervor sweeping through France. Here, life moved at a more measured pace, and even the working class had a certain air of restraint. The British working class, while equally fed up with the injustices of capitalism, preferred a more stiff upper lip approach. They were no less determined to fight for their rights, but their methods were distinctly British, calm, collected, and methodical. The factory floors and coal mines were filled with men who, despite their hardships, maintained a sense of dignity and resolve. Instead of storming the Bastille, they formed trade unions and sipped tea, probably while plotting the downfall of the bourgeoisie. These gatherings were not just social events, they were strategic meetings where plans were laid out and alliances were formed. Over cups of tea, they discussed wages, working conditions, and the need for collective action. British socialism took a more gradualist approach, advocating for better working conditions and higher wages through collective bargaining and political reform. The trade unions became powerful entities, negotiating with employers and pushing for legislative changes. They organized rallies and lobbied politicians, all in the name of improving the lives of the working class. Think of it as the slow and steady wins-the-race approach to social change. While it may not have had the immediate impact of a revolution, it was a strategy that built momentum over time. Peaceful marches, strategic strikes, and patient negotiations were the tools of their trade. They believed in the power of persistence and the importance of unity. And you know what? It actually worked, to a certain extent at least. The efforts of these trade unions and socialist activists did not go unrewarded. Over the years, they secured significant victories that improved the lives of countless workers. From shorter working hours to better pay and safer working conditions, their achievements were a testament to their dedication and perseverance. British workers made significant gains in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, thanks to the tireless efforts of trade unions and socialist activists. These victories were not just about economic improvements, they were about dignity and respect. The banners they carried were symbols of their hard-won rights and the solidarity that made those victories possible. Their legacy is a reminder that change, even when slow, is always worth striving for. By the turn of the 20th century, socialism had taken root across Europe. From the factories of Germany to the cobblestone streets of Paris, the call for a more just and equitable society was growing louder. Workers were organizing, intellectuals were debating, and governments were starting to sweat a little. The stage was set for a showdown between the old order and the forces of change. The seeds of revolution had been sown, and it was only a matter of time before they blossomed into full-blown uprisings. And, trust us, things were about to get a whole lot more interesting. And by interesting, we mean World War level interesting. So there you have it, folks. The rise of socialism in Europe, a tale of bearded intellectuals, disgruntled workers, and the enduring human desire for a fairer world. But the story doesn't end there. Just when you thought things were getting good, hold on to your hats because we're heading east to Russia, where the socialist movement is about to take a wild, vodka-fueled turn. Stay tuned for the next installment of our socialist saga, the Russian Revolution roller coaster.